For those of you online, we're just talking about how it's such a small world. We still have 5 more minutes, so sit tight. Have some small talk. Hey, Susan. It's good to see you. We'll be getting started in a moment. Hey, Dawn. Good morning. And Lisa, hi.
Good morning.
Good morning, Lisa. That I think is really meaningful. Very much so. Oh, are you gonna do, if you want to go ahead and get keyed up with your headset there, and I'll show you how that'll. Hi, Rainey.
Hi, Linda. Hi, Don.
Good morning.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Andre.
Okay. All right. Good morning, Rainey. I heard you.
Okay, I think we can start whenever you're ready, Andre.
Okay. I guess we should do prostrations.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
So, yeah.
This is not going to go anywhere when I'm
We'll
wired.
start with prostration.
I've been wired in my life, but not like this. Oh, we'll go ahead and do 3 prostrations. Start with the prayers now. Okay.
So Venerable Lamo and Donna are not here today. So y'all get me as chant master.
Yeah.
I do my best.
How fortunate are we?
I don't claim to be a chant master though. I will just be leading. So if you are in the Gampa, you can turn to page 34. It's the red tab in the Gold Prayer Book. And we'll start with the mantra for Shakyamuni Buddha. We'll do this 3 times. Taya tao om mahanaye so taya tao so taya tao om so and then on that same page, we'll do Medicine Buddha stanza and mantra. I can never remember if the stanzas in the Gold Prayer Book or not. Bhagawan, with equal compassion for all, whose name, when merely heard, dispels the suffering of the lower realms, dispeller of disease and the 3 poisons, I prostrate to Medicine Buddha loudly slate. Teyata om beckon say ma beckon say Radha Samagate Soha. Teyata om beckon say ma beckon say Radha Samagate Soha. Teyata om beckon say ma beckon say Radha Samagate Soha. Teyata om beckon say maha beckon say Raza samagate soha. Teyata om beckon say maha beckon say Raza samagate soha. Teyata om beckon say maha beckon say Raza samagate soha. Teyata om beckon say maha beckon say Raza samagate soha. Teyata om beckon say maha beckon say Raza samagate soha. And then also on page 34, we'll do the 4 immeasurables 3 times. May all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all sentient beings be inseparable from the happiness that is free from suffering. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from attachment for friends and hatred for enemies. May all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all sentient beings be inseparable from the happiness that is free from suffering. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from attachment for friends and hatred for enemies. May all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all sentient beings be inseparable from the happiness that is free from suffering. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from attachment for friends and hatred for enemies. And then turn to page 37. Oh, sorry. No, that's the chanting version. Oh, no, sorry. It is page 37. We'll do Chinrezig verse of praise and mantra. Not veiled by any fault, white in color, whose head a perfect Buddha crowns in light, gazing compassionately at all beings, to you, Chinrezig, all-seeing one, I prostrate. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme. Mani Padme. And then also page 37, we'll do Tara verse of praise and mantra. Tare liberates from cyclic existence. Tutare liberates from the 8 fears. Ture liberates from all sickness. I prostrate to the liberator, Mother Tara. Om Tare Tu, so. Om Tare Tu, re so. Om Tare Tu, re so. Om Tare Tu, so. Om Tare Tu, so. Om Tare Tu, re so. Om Tare Tu, re so. Okay, I'll turn it over to you, Andre.
Okay. All right. I don't know why I'm so nervous. I do this in the prisons. You're right. I've been doing it for over 20 years now, so I don't know exactly why I'm so nervous. Maybe it's because it's you guys. All right. Oh, thank you so much. All right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. All right. Okay. Um, let's see what we do here. So what I'm going to do is we're going to do a meditation. All right. I think I'd like to um, maybe choose one uh, in the book. Um, this is a meditation by Kathleen McDonald, Appreciating Our Human Life. All right. I think this is so important because I think one of the reasons that there's so much hate in the world and so much killing and so forth is because we don't appreciate human life. We don't appreciate our own human life. We don't appreciate the human life of others. You know, if we can understand how precious this human life is, right? We would never waste it with anger and hate and so forth. You know, only understood, right? So first of all, we want to sit comfortably with your back straight. Relax your body and let any tension dissolve and flow away. Let's spend a few minutes calming and settling our minds using the meditation on the breath. And now with a calm and subtle mind, let's generate a positive altruistic motivation for doing the meditation. May this meditation bring greater peace and happiness to myself and others, to the whole world. May this meditation bring me closer to enlightenment so that I can help all other beings attain enlightenment as well. Let's begin by contemplating that the nature of my mind is clear and pure and has the potential to become enlightened. The state of complete purity, goodness, and perfection. This is true for ourselves. It's true for all other beings. The nature of every being's mind is clear like space, vast and unlimited. Our negative thoughts and emotions are not permanent, fixed parts of the mind, but they're transient, like clouds that pass through the sky. And because they are based on ignorance and misconceptions, they can be cleared away. The mind can be developed to a completely pure and positive state. If you find it difficult to accept that the mind has the potential to become enlightened, think of the positive qualities that you have: intelligence, loving kindness, compassion, generosity, and courage. Remind yourself that these can be developed even further, and you can use your life to bring benefit and happiness to others. As you contemplate this, feel joyful about the potential that lies within you. Although all beings have the potential to transform their mind to become enlightened, not all beings are in the most ideal situation in which they can recognize and develop this potential. Human beings are generally in the best situation. Non-human beings either have too much suffering or are incapable of developing their potential due to ignorance and other delusions. Imagine what it would be like to be an animal. For example, animals in the wild have no one to care for them when they experience hunger, thirst, heat, cold, sickness, or injuries. And many are in almost constant fear for their lives. Domestic animals are better off, but still they lack the freedom and are often killed for meat, fur, and other products. All animals, even the most intelligent, have extremely limited mental capacities, and they're unable to develop themselves intellectually or spiritually. Contemplate this and just think how fortunate we are to have a human life. Still, not all human beings have the right conditions to recognize and develop their potential. For example, imagine being a destitute, uh, a beggar, or living in a war zone. Most of your time and energy would be spent simply trying to keep yourself and your family alive. You would have little or no time to think of anything else. You have no time to think about a spiritual practice. Imagine suffering from a severe mental disability or illness, which would make it very difficult for you to understand the teachings of the mind's potential and how to develop it, or having a physical condition that caused you a great deal of pain, discomfort, and inconvenience, and hindered your ability to learn and practice spiritual teachings. Some people do not have access to spiritual teachings that explain the mind's potential and how to develop it. Imagine spending your entire life in a small, remote village where no one has even heard about enlightenment. So there's no opportunity to learn how to attain it. Other people may be aware of their potential and sincerely wish to practice the teachings on how to develop it, but are prevented from doing so by others. For example, people in some countries do not have freedom of religion. Others face strong objections from their parents, spouses, or their children. Imagine yourself in such a situation. Recognize how difficult it would be and appreciate the freedom you have. Then there are many people who are physically and mentally healthy, are materially well off, and have the freedom and opportunity to learn spiritual teachings, but are simply not interested. Their interest lies elsewhere, accumulating wealth, property, and possessions, acquiring worldly knowledge or skills, or simply experiencing as much pleasure as they can. They never even consider that all these things will be left behind when they die, like a dream that vanishes as soon as they wake up. They have no awareness that only their mind will continue to the next life. There's some people who engage in harmful actions such as killing, stealing, and being abusive or dishonest, not realizing that these actions cause suffering to themselves and others and create further obstacles to discovering their true potential. Recognize how fortunate you are to be interested in enlightenment and using your life in meaningful, beneficial ways for yourself and others. Bring to mind the positive qualities and advantages you have. You're a human being with an intelligent mind, a loving heart, and a body you can put to good use. There are people who care about and support you, family, friends, a spiritual teacher. You have opportunities to pursue your creative, intellectual, and social interests. You enjoy a good standard of living. At least you have enough to stay alive. And most of all, you have the potential and opportunity because of all the other benefits to investigate, understand, and transform your mind. Even if your life does not afford as much freedom and comfort as you would like, and even if you have to live with some very difficult problems and challenges, no matter where you are and what conditions you live in, you can always work on your mind. How few people or creatures on earth share these freedoms and chances with you. When you consider this deeply, you realize how rare and precious a life like yours is. We need to really, really appreciate our good fortune. Once you've seen the disadvantages your life is free of and the advantages you enjoy, decide how best to use your precious opportunities. Think of all the possibilities open to you: work, travel, enjoyment, study. If you wish to offer service to others, there are countless opportunities to help those less fortunate than you. But the most meaningful and beneficial thing you can do, both for yourself and others, is to develop yourself spiritually, overcoming the negative aspects of your mind, increasing the positive, and actualizing your potential for enlightenment. Try to see the limitations of a lifestyle geared solely to materialistic gain. Think of the insignificance of fame, wealth, reputation, and sensual indulgence when compared to the goal of enlightenment. Why aspire to only temporal achievements when we're capable of so much more? See if you can feel a sense of joy and appreciation for the wonderful situation you have. Make the resolve to use your life wisely, doing your best to avoid harming others, and instead helping them as much as you can, and developing your love, compassion, wisdom, and other positive qualities that will enable you to actualize your highest potential. And let's dedicate the energy and inspiration you've gained from doing this meditation to the ultimate happiness of all beings. Hmm. How fortunate we are, huh? How fortunate we are. We don't spend enough time thinking about this, right? Oftentimes, I know, speaking for myself, take it for granted, right? This life. Thinking, yes, we have another day, right? Not realizing how many people, not to mention the world, just here in America, just here in Raleigh, carrying closely, don't have these opportunities that we have. How many people, out of ignorance, created some terrible, heinous act, or in prisons now? They didn't wake up one morning and say, hey, I think I'll go to prison today. That wasn't on their mind because they didn't have access to these teachings. Out of ignorance, they behaved in the way that they have. We do the same. We do the same. I wrote this book because, and I had uh, I don't know, the inspiration, I guess, uh, to write this book, mainly because of these guys I work with in prison. I had no idea when I started going to the prison what I was going to encounter, right? Media lets you make you think all kinds of things. I've seen a lot of movies like Prison Break and stuff like that, and you see the worst people in prison, so forth. I had no idea I was going to meet these human beings, these wonderful human beings that made mistakes. They make mistakes, terrible mistakes. The man that murdered my son, right? Terrible mistakes. But a human being with the potential, the same potential that I have, the same potential the Buddha had to actually become enlightened. The Buddha said there's no difference between you and me in potential, right? We all have the potential to become Buddhas. When I go into the prisons, I see these guys and I see their potential. I don't see their acts. I know they did stuff, but that's the past. It's what they do in the present moment that matters, right? And so that's where I work. I work for the present. So I'm going to read. And after I read something, please, if anyone has any questions at all, please just let me know, and I'll spend some time to answer the questions. I put this little thing in the book at the beginning. Life is short. Why waste so much of the remaining time we have left with this precious human life harboring anger and hate? Why not make the most of our life doing something meaningful? Why not try forgiveness, love, and compassion? Uh, this is the introduction. I started with a quote. I did so in as I introduce each chapter. This is a quote from Kenpo Katar Rinpoche. When you have many excuses not to do your work, ask yourself, what guarantee you have of another chance to do what needs to be done? Time lost is lost for good. No matter how much you promise to improve, no matter what good intentions you have for making it up, the time gone is gone for good. Feeling sorry about the situation will not bring it back. You can never buy back the precious piece of time that you lost. You may think, well, that piece of time has passed, but I still have a long stretch of time left. No, you do not. What guarantee is there that you will have another piece of time like this one? Wake up and stop the excuses. They never made sense before and do not make sense now. Laziness and procrastination have never worked in a sound and helpful way. It is only sound and helpful to get things moving. It's one of my biggest problems. Venerable Rabina, my teacher, she reminds me all the time. I procrastinate, which is another form of laziness. I put it off. Oh, I can do it next day. I can do it next day. I procrastinated on this book. I thought, yeah, I got another day to do it, another day. A year passed, another year passed, so forth. Right. Yeah. So we got to stop that. I got to stop that, right? It's one of the many things that I'm working on. Early in the morning, December 28th, 2007, My wife and I were awakened by the ringing of the doorbell. We assumed that it was our son, thinking once again that he left home last night without his key. Instead, we were awakened to the sobering news delivered by two policemen that Daniel had been murdered. I guess one could say that day was the inception of this book. That terrible and tragic event certainly changed the trajectory of my life. Although I taught and continue to teach forgiveness and compassion to prisoners, the true meaning of these far-reaching ethical ideals escaped me, particularly in practice, until that heart-rending day. I'm a practicing Buddhist and have studied Buddhist thought for the past 20 plus years. Before Buddhism, I had immersed myself in Christian thought and practiced for about 25 years. Before Daniel's murder, I used the words forgiveness and compassion. However, to be honest, they weren't much more than words. I understood them intellectually, but wasn't certain I could live them. I certainly wasn't sure if I could forgive or show compassion to someone who had taken the life of a loved one. I recall one of my students asked, "Are you telling me that if someone killed my wife or child, I am to forgive him? How can I do that?" I answered, "Yes, that is what I'm saying, but honestly, I'm unsure how or if I could. But I do know that I want to be that kind of person, and I know that there has been some in history and the present day who have inspired me to be that kind of person." This was just a few months before my son was murdered. It wasn't until I began studying the Buddha's teachings that these words emerged as more than abstract concepts. They became real and achievable ideas. As I pointed out to my students, it's not that Christianity lacks examples of people who embody forgiveness and compassion, starting, of course, with Christ. There were also powerful examples in the 20th century, such as Martin Luther King Jr., Mother Teresa, and Nelson Mandela, who were living shining bastions of compassionate action. But I couldn't draw a connection between these people and myself. The understanding that I was taught in church was that these were exceptionally unique human beings. For example, with Christ, we are not expected to match his goodness. I've been told by some of my Christian friends that I can never be good, citing the biblical verse Mark 10:18, where Jesus asked, "Why do you call me good? No one is good except God alone." This view that somehow we're incapable of embodying these values inhibits us from developing these virtuous qualities. In the opinion of many, these aspirations are not achievable for mere humans. Therefore, we dismiss them as either naive or unattainable. It's unfortunate that so many Christians emphasize an eye for an eye and tooth for a tooth rather than Christ's teachings of turning the other cheek. Compassion and forgiveness were modeled by Christ on the cross when he asked his heavenly Father to forgive his abusers and ultimately his killers, saying, "For they know not what they do." He even demonstrated forgiveness for the two criminals who were crucified beside him. In the centuries after Christ, the message of compassion and forgiveness faded beneath layers of doctrine and division. The entirety of this book will be comprised of what love, compassion, and forgiveness mean and how essential they are to ending human suffering and attaining ultimate happiness. I will attempt to demonstrate how it is entirely possible for anyone, regardless of one's religious faith or lack thereof, to find the ability to have and demonstrate compassion and forgiveness for one's enemies. These qualities lie latent within us all. I will show the benefits that result from being compassionate and forgiving. Finally, I will try to convince the reader that exercising compassion and forgiveness is in their best interest. After all, it is human nature to do that which is most beneficial to us. In fact, I've realized that it is not only how one should live, but also a human imperative. Being a Buddhist means that my writing will be drawn from the Buddhist perspective. Nevertheless, let me assure the reader that my intent is not to convince anyone to become Buddhist. That is not my purpose for writing this book. As I say to those who attend my classes in prison, my only wish is to share what I have learned. But I sincerely hope that it will be beneficial. I promise that I have no agenda other than to share the why, how, and need for forgiveness. As already noted, I've also been a student and practitioner of Christian thought. I discovered that Buddhist and Christian teachings are not so dissimilar in many areas. I have found this especially true regarding the notions of forgiveness and compassion. Forgiveness and compassion are not necessarily religious teachings, rather they are human ones. Therefore, they do not belong to any one religion. They are innate and universal. Every human being has within their very being the potential to express compassion and the ability to demonstrate forgiveness. They're not mystical abilities either. They are human assets. However, to access them, one must first recognize that they exist. They must understand why they are essential and then take deliberate steps to develop and nurture them. I will establish this is possible, how this is possible. Jack Kornfield, renowned author and meditation teacher, proposes that if we look at ourselves truthfully, we can feel the possibility of being more compassionate, more awake, and more unrestrained. The choice is ours. My teacher, Venerable Rubino Corton, always reminds me that we are the boss. We choose. We create our reality. As Kenpo Kartar Rinpoche says, time past is time gone. We can never get that time back. My son is gone. All that is left of him are my memories. Being angry, beating my chest, hating, and wishing for the suffering of my son's murderer will not bring him back, nor will it return the time I had with him. Anger, hate, and revenge serve no one. It only creates more unhappiness and suffering. I have discovered that the pain and suffering that loss brings can only be soothed with the healing balm of love, compassion, and forgiveness. When I lost Daniel, I was faced with a choice: either hold on to my pain and suffer, or let go and find happiness through liberation. Liberation from the story I kept telling myself, the one that said I could never be free unless the past changed. We're all faced with the same choice. I chose to let go and not suffer. If I had not, I could never have continued to do the things that bring me so much joy and happiness, such as teaching and writing this book. I ardently hope that those who read this book will find liberation from their suffering and rediscover the joy and happiness that emerge when suffering no longer defines their story. Oh, there's more in there, in the introduction. Oh. Oh, I'm so sorry. Yeah. The title is Forgiveness and Compassion, the Essential Way to Live. Right? You can get it on Amazon. And so I hope that you would, I hope that you will want one. And yes. Mm.
Andre, thank you so much for writing this book. And um, I just want to say, when I finished reading it a couple of weeks ago, I was working with some forgiveness issues.
Mhm.
And so I had a very specific, feels really loud.
Mm.
It is what it is. Okay.
Mm.
I had a very specific relationship that I was contemplating while reading the book, which I found to be very, very helpful.
Mhm.
There was a transmuting quality and alchemizing quality to your book, because by the end of the book, and it did take me it took me like a while, and I had to put it down a few times because I was really working with my own forgiveness issues. But when I picked it up and I was ready, It was a fast read. And
Yeah.
by the end of that book, your book,
Mm.
I was able to cultivate more of that forgiveness, and it was no longer the predominant thing that was on my mind, working with my, pulling my energy. So I just want to say thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, that's my hope. I hope that anyone who reads this book, especially if you lost a loved one, mine was through murder. Right. I've had conversations with Linda. She said how much it's helped her when I talk about losing my son and having forgiveness and compassion for him. Your son wasn't murdered, right?
Well, we don't know for sure.
Oh,
He died of an overdose. The drug dealer that supplied the drugs was, as we found out later, living in his apartment. So don't know.
yeah.
Yeah. But I do remember one thing I want to share with you, Andre, and everyone is years before my son Orion died, Andre had, I didn't know that Andre's son had passed away and been killed. And during one Sunday teaching, you mentioned it kind of like, oh yeah, when my son was, stabbed to death. You kind of told the story. And it was like heart-wrenching. And I thought, how in the world, how can Andre sit here and tell us this and have this forgiveness and compassion? And then, years later, I get the knock on my door at 6 a.m. with 2 cops. And same thing. It's like, okay, Orion's either in jail or in the hospital, you know.
Yeah.
And then, and then I had to, I really, your words resonated with me that you can look at things differently. And, it wasn't just your words, of course, it was the
Yeah.
Buddha's words and Geshe-la's
Yeah.
and all of these amazing teachings. But yeah, thank you for writing the book and for being here today to share this, because I think it's so crucial that we really understand we can look at things differently and
Yeah.
we can approach things differently than going down the negative path. Yeah.
Very true. Very true. Yeah.
Yeah. And one more thing, and then I'll stop.
Mm.
And so my son was 20, and like I said, he overdosed and was fentanyl and cocaine. And and because and after his death, it was so important to me that something positive come out of his death. And I will say that, several of his really close best friends have completely left that path behind and are, very much so embracing their precious human life, much more so than they were doing before. So, so there is something that positive that has come out of it. Okay, I'll stop now.
Absolutely. Yeah. So as I said, I practiced Christianity for about 25 years of my life. I should say it's a branch of Christianity, right? How many people have ever heard of Moonies before? Yeah, I was a Moonie. I was, no, we aren't brainwashed. We weren't, nothing like that people had said, right? We were idealistic young people. I was 18 years old. And so actually a little bit older than 18, maybe. I'd just gotten back from Vietnam. I'm not sure. But at any rate, I was a young man, and I was looking for something, right? Something that would that would make sense to me. Trying to figure out my own life. I'm an ex-junkie and so forth, and I was wondering, why do we do the things that we do, like to harm ourselves? Why do we do these things? I couldn't understand why. And so I was looking for something that made sense to me. And I thought Unification Church is doing it, but after a while I realized it was all about the Reverend Moon and himself. It took me about 25 years for me to figure that one out. My wife figured out sooner. I met her through the church and so forth. So I left, and I really felt like, but still, I got this. I need to understand, right? Why? I need to understand me. I need to understand others. What's going on in the world? I need to understand. In the meantime, I had all this anger. I had all this anger inside. I came to the Kadampa Center, a very angry person. People may not have known it because we know how to, to hide that, right? But I had a lot of anger. I didn't like white people too much. I grew up here in the South, right? I grew up during segregation. I'm 74 years old, so I grew up, with separation and stuff like that. And I grew up being called nigger and all this other kind of stuff, and and so you know, and so it's like I didn't understand. I had all this anger inside, right? And I didn't know what to do with it and so forth. And so I acted out. I did drugs. I did all this other kind of stuff. And it wasn't until actually I almost lost my life, uh, and that I became really serious about life. I remember being on a bathroom floor. I'd taken some acid, and it was some bad acid, and I was having a really bad trip, right? And I remember looking at myself. I had two experiences like this, looking at myself and thinking, God, am I going to die like this? Is this how I'm going to die on the bathroom floor, like filthy and stuff like that? When I was in Vietnam, I overdosed on opium and heroin, and I remember looking in the mirror, and I didn't recognize this person in the mirror. Just the skin and bones, just emaciated person, yellow eyes. I had hepatitis and stuff like that. Didn't recognize this person. And I remember praying at that time, and I said, God, if you can help me, I'm going to change my life. I'm going to change my life. And so I found a way out of Vietnam. I found a way out of the army. And then I began my search. Still did a lot of crazy stuff, but I began my seriously searching. And so it wasn't until Buddhism, though, right? I did Christianity and stuff like that, and forgiveness. I heard those words and stuff like that. Had all this anger. No one ever told me that my anger was wrong. No one ever said, you know, no one ever told me that you don't have to have this anger. This is not who you are. No one ever said that. Instead, I would get justification for my anger, right? Well, this person did this, so you have, right? I never went to a psychologist, but I studied psychology, and I remember stories of psychologists who uh, people come in with anger, and they say, go ahead and just yell and scream and beat on things and stuff like that. Doesn't do anything to alleviate the anger, to remove the anger. Just creates more of it, right? It wasn't until the Buddhist teachings that it hit me. Buddha said that anger is not part of your mind. This is not who you are, right? We identify with it so strongly that we think this is who we are, that I am anger. No, we're not anger. We have anger. It's not who we are. We can remove it. So I took that as the hypothesis. I said, okay, I'm going to test it out. I did a scientific method. I'm going to test it out. And I found over time, as I began to just look at myself and quit blaming my wife and blaming this and blaming that, so just working on myself, working on my own mind, began to become less angry. Venerable Bina says that when I was interviewed and I said, I have the interviewer asked me about what I feel about the killer. It was the same day that I lost my son. I mean, they were right there. I don't know how they figured it. And anyway, the interviewer asked me, what do I feel about the killer? I said, without even thinking about it, I said, I have compassion for him. I forgive him, you know. And that just floored her. She's couldn't understand it. But to me, it was just natural. Philomena Urbina later told me, she said, Andre, the reason that you could get to compassion and forgiveness so quickly is because you practiced it. You must have practiced it in a past life, all right? So this is what I'm trying to emphasize in my book. We have to practice these things. We want to get better. We have to practice it. It begins now, not later. Don't wait to some big tragic event, right? The little things. Your boyfriend, your girlfriend, whatever, your husband, you know, you find you're miffed. Recognize this miffness. It's a cute little word. It's anger, right? It's anger. Left unchecked, it will blow up, right? Jung said everything that's suppressed and oppressed eventually finds its way out in the most ugliest ways, right? This is what I see in the prisons. This is what it was this guy that murdered my son. He practiced anger and hate. No, he didn't go to the prison. He didn't go to the club that where my son was and just said, you know, I think I'm going to murder Daniel. He didn't even know Daniel, right? Daniel, it was on the dance floor, and he was dancing, and this guy was just standing there with his beer, and Daniel bumped him, spilled the beer on him, and that was it, right? He wanted Daniel to forgive him. Daniel said, "Why? I'll buy you a shirt. I'll give you my shirt." You know. Sometimes I wonder if he just said the word forgiveness, maybe. If he just said, "Oh yeah, can you forgive me for that?" Maybe I don't know. But the guy waited until the club was closing. Daniel went to the bathroom. The guy went into the bathroom, stabbed him to death several times. Right. All because this guy couldn't control his anger. He had no idea about controlling anger. I really wish, and I told him so in court. I had an opportunity to talk to him, and I told him, I said, I really wish that you could be in one of my classes so that I could share with you, right, the things that I've learned to help overcome anger and stuff like that. This is how it is, right? Because we don't know, we act out. If we knew the ramifications for our behavior, our actions, we wouldn't do them. If we knew that by our anger is actually hurting ourselves more than it's hurting the other person, we wouldn't do it. Again, we do that which is in our best interest, right? We wouldn't do it. But because we don't know, it's out of ignorance. This is why we can have compassion for ourselves. This is why we can forgive ourselves, because it's out of ignorance. We didn't know. We may have known that act was wrong, that act was bad, but we didn't know what follows. We had no idea. And with anger is so deceptive, right? Because we think it's really our friend. We think anger is helping us. If you say something bad to me, and then I get it off my chest when I come back, I think, wow, now I feel so much better, right? And I think that's great. But no, it's still there. Nothing has changed, right? Now you feel even worse. You may have said something and you didn't even mean to hurt my feelings, but I came back, right? I lashed back. And even if you did mean to hurt my feelings, that's on you, right? Nothing to do with me. That's on you. So we can learn how to let it go. Let it go are the three most important words that I learned when I started coming here to the Kadampa Center and studying Buddhism. Let it go. Holding on to so much stuff. I had no idea the stuff that I was holding on to. Thought that I let it go, but no, this is where the anger came, right? I was still holding on to this stuff. There's a meditation that's called regression meditation, where you actually go back and you see yourself when you were just, you know, growing up when you were little, right? And then in this meditation, you begin to recall some of the things that we're holding on to, something that our father did, our mother did, or a friend did. We thought that's over, but it's still there. We got to really work on this stuff. And we have to be able to forgive ourselves and have compassion for ourselves for the things we do. When we can do that, then we can begin to have compassion and forgiveness for others for the things they do. Because then we realize, you know what, we're not that different. I remember once Venerable Ravina was teaching. It wasn't here. It was when we were down in the basement at the other place. I remember it might have been here. It doesn't really matter, right? But at any rate, someone was saying, she was talking about her friends in prison and stuff like that and things that they do. And one person said, "Oh, I'd never do that." And if you know Venerable Ravina, right, she will not let something like that go, right? It's just like she said. How dare you? How do you know what you would do and what you won't do? You have no idea. I had no idea I was going to be able to forgive someone who murdered my son, have compassion for him. I had no idea, right? But there it was. It came without thought, just like breathing, just came. That forgiveness and compassion hasn't changed. I mean, once I had second thoughts about it. I wrote this guy. He'd been in for about maybe a year or so, 2 years, I'm not sure. And he was still holding on to the fact that he was right, and that it was my son's fault and stuff like that. My son didn't have a weapon. My son didn't do anything, you know. But he was still holding on to that. And I remember I thought, why the heck am I forgiving this guy? And then I thought, because it's not for him. It's for me. I'm forgiving him so that I can be free. I often say when I do talks and stuff like that, I work for several organizations, the Coalition Against the Death Penalty, and then also Human Kindness Foundation, Liberation Prison Project, and so forth. And I often say that that there's only one person in prison, and that's not me. The man that murdered my son is in prison. I'm free. Why am I free? Because I was able to let go. And that's what forgiveness is. Letting go, not holding on to, right? But letting it go. In this way, we can move forward. I remember once Venerable Ravina asked me after my son died if I would be a panel guest at not at the Happiness and Its Causes event in San Francisco. Yeah. And so I went. And I remember I was telling that there was 4 of us on stage, and we were able to find forgiveness. I was the only Buddhist that was able to do that, and I gave my reasons as to why and so forth. And I remember thinking and saying that if I want to leave the room, if I'm holding on to the door, now I'm not going anywhere, right? If I want to go forward, I got to let go. This is the only way we can move forward. It's the only way we can be able to find happiness again. Make no mistake about it. Those of you who have lost loved ones know what it feels like to lose a loved one. It's profound. It's deep. It's painful. Right? December 28th is when my wife and I, my daughter, lost Daniel. That's coming up. Can never, ever, forget. I also realized, too, that whenever I think about Daniel, which always leads to this day that he was murdered, I always think, whether I want to or not, This guy that murdered my son, he's attached to that memory. So I think, well, how am I going to think about him? How can I honor Daniel? How can I remember Daniel in the best way if I have anger towards this guy and hate towards this guy? He is there. He has inserted himself into my life. Right? I choose to forgive him and have compassion. This frees me, liberates me. And now, and when I think of Daniel, right, I can have the memories that I want, right, and so forth. I think this is so essential, right? So essential. Oftentimes, people ask me, they think when I speak at these events and stuff like that, and I've been asked by people, how can you forgive? And they even say that's like dishonoring your son. And I'm thinking, no, that's remembering my son, right? This is what my son would want me to do. I remember once he told me I was in the hospital. I my shoulder, and I had my shoulder replaced and stuff like that. I was in the hospital, and I remember, and he said, Dad, I want to do what you do. You know, I was working in the prison, stuff like that. Can you imagine how that makes the father feel, right? A parent feel? I want to be like you. I want to do what you do and stuff like that. No, he'd be so disappointed in me if I hated this guy, if I wanted this guy to suffer. That's another thing too. I don't have to wish suffering for this guy that murdered my son. He created suffering for himself. The moment he plunged the knife in my son, the first stab, he created suffering for himself. I don't have to wish suffering for him. But I can, from the Buddhist perspective, love him and have compassion for him. Meaning I want him to be happy and I don't want him to suffer. I can do that, right? I can do that. So that's how I choose to live my life. I remember too when I lost my son, the guys in prison. I think I mentioned in the book. I'm not sure, but anyway, uh, uh, and the guys knew that my son was murdered and stuff like that at prison, in the prison. And I remember they 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 didn't expect me to come back. And then one of my friends told me, we did a podcast together. Travis Boone. I hope you guys can meet him someday. He's actually my barber. He gets a little bit too happy with the haircut. And he cuts it shorter than I like, but he's a wonderful guy. And I remember the podcaster asked him, about what I share and stuff like that. And Travis said, we didn't know whether he was going to come back. If he did come back, how was he going to be? And so I came back and I just said, I told the story, and I said, we're just going to pick up where we left off and just keep going, right? I had a very small class at that time. That class grew. I had about maybe 4 or 5 people. It's about maybe 20 people. Sometimes they were out in the hallway and stuff like that, sitting. One of the guys said, I remember this really, really big, huge guy. He looks like Green Mile guy, right? If you ever seen really big, huge fellow. He came to me and he had like a gray film over his eye. His eye was injured. He came up to me, this big guy, and I said, "Oh, good God," And he came and he embraced me, And he said, "I just wanted to meet the man who could forgive. I just want to meet the man who could forgive." Yeah. People need this. People need to know that in spite of what I've done, I can be loved still, right? People can forgive me for what I've done. I can change, I can grow, I can develop, I can do better. They need to know this, just like we need to know this. Right? I came here because of my anger. That's what brought me here, because of my anger. I was on the verge of losing everything. My wife, my children didn't know how to relate to me. My dog didn't know how to relate to me, right? Because my anger was volatile, right? I grew up in anger. My father was an alcoholic and he was an abuser and stuff like that. So I had all this anger. I came here because I was about to lose everything. I needed to find an answer. Christianity wasn't doing it, right? And so the Buddha gave me the answer that I needed. Began to change my life. I mentioned it once before, once who was sitting here, and for 2 years, I made it my practice. My sole practice was to work on my anger. That was it. That was my sole practice, to work on my anger. And I found over time that I was getting better. How do I know I was getting better? Because my wife told me I was getting better. I didn't see it. She saw it, right? Those around us see it, right? That's how we know we're on the right path, that we're doing it. Yeah. So, yes. Yeah.
Hi, Andre.
Hey, Aaron, how are you?
I'm good.
I'm praying for you.
I'm wondering, and maybe this is in the book, I've not read it yet.
Uh,
Is there a specific practice that you focused on when you were working on anger? Like, I know there's letting thoughts arise and thinking about practicing impermanence and
mhm.
different approaches.
Yeah. For me, it was the practice I did was looking at myself and not looking at others as being the cause of my anger, right? That was my practice. I began to work on my mind, not on the mind of others, right? We're so adept at fixing other people's problems, seeing what's going on in their minds, and we're clueless when it comes to what's going on with us. So I began to work on that, just working on myself, realizing, no, my wife did this. She's not the cause of my anger. This is me, because I don't have to be angry. I'm choosing to be angry. I don't have to be angry. It's really amazing that as I began to become less angry, become a better human being, if you will, as the Dalai Lama says, right? Things around me began to change, right? Is it because they changed? I have no idea. I don't think so. I think it's because I changed, right?
Yeah, there was something you said earlier about
Mm.
the difference between I am angry and really associating anger with yourself. And then I have anger, I think. Like, and then I'm not sure if this is correct or not. We could Google it.
Yeah.
But there's, different languages have different ways of saying these things. So I think like in Spanish, you would say I have anger, not I am angry.
Right. Yeah.
And then what I think I heard was like in Tibetan, it would even be a little bit more removed and it would be there is anger.
Right.
So you get to that point where there's a really great kids book. I started studying Buddhism just a couple of years before I had kids. So discovering these teachings while raising kids, it was just such a great opportunity because
I can
like you're
imagine.
starting at the beginning, you're like, I need this for a 2-year-old level,
Yeah.
which is where I was
Yeah.
like Buddhism was. I'm like,
Yeah.
well, I need this for a 2-year-old. But there's a book and in the kid kept getting angry and there was just sort of a visual representation of the anger outside and as he kind of thought about it, it shrank. But it's just really cool to kind of distance yourself. Like that I am angry. I've completely internalized it. This is who I am. We don't even realize we're doing that.
That's right. Yeah.
And then just go, oh, I have it. It's this thing that I just have. And then you
Yeah.
get it to the point where it's there.
Yeah.
It's just something that arose. And then, oh, that's interesting. And then
Yeah.
you kind of look at it very scientifically almost.
That's right. And when you can see that these things are not who you are, right? You can begin to uh, get rid of them, right? It's like the analogy often is used like a barge, a ship going from one port to the other port. It starts off very, very clean, very shiny as it's going, right? It's just picking up all of this stuff, right? All this, the barnacles and all this other kind of stuff is picking up. So by the time it gets to its destination, now it's got all this stuff. This is the way it is with our life. We pick this stuff up along the way. The good news about that is that we can also get rid of it. If it's not who we are, we can get rid of it. If it's not this is not who I am. Because again, yes, I have anger. I don't have to have it. If it's who I am, I'm stuck with it, right? Nothing I can do. But it's not who I am. It's not who we are. And that's the way it is with all these destructive emotions, right? These afflictive emotions. They're not who we are, but we identify with them so strongly. People that I work with in prison, they're murderers. They murdered people, right? And they say, I'm a murderer. And I say, no, you're not. That's what you did. That's not who you are, right? Now, you can't do anything about that. As Rinpoche says in here, right? Time passes, time passed. You can't do anything about that. But you can make sure that you never do that again. You can learn from that. And so we can do things like purification practices, right? The four opponent powers: regret, reliance, remedy, and resolve. We can work on it. Deeply regret the things that we have done. I think this is one of the most important ones, regret. Because if you can't regret it, forget about the rest of it. Okay? Yeah. In order to regret it, you got to own it. You got to remember, I did this. I caused this pain. I caused this harm. And then reliance. For us, we rely on the Buddha and the Dharma, right? Christians rely on God and Christ, whatever, the Bible. But reliance, then remedy, right? Actually doing the work. And then the most crucial is the resolve, the determination never to do it again. And as Venerable Bina says, this is where you make your promise. And you promise yourself, you don't promise the Buddhas. We created this crap, right? We take responsibility for ourselves. You make the promise, I will never, ever do that again. And chances are you will, some stuff. So you do it again, keep doing it over and over and over again. It begins to have an impact. You begin to see your life changing, you becoming a better human being. Yeah. This is the work that we have to do. This is what the Buddha's asking. This is all he's asking. He's not a God. He doesn't give commandments. These are just suggestions, right? Advice. Try this out. See if it works. Doesn't work? No harm, no foul. I remember once I was listening to the Dalai Lama on YouTube. That's the only way I can get the Dalai Lama. I've never been able to go and see him in person. I'd love to be able to one day. But I remember that he was teaching. I can't remember exactly what it was about, but as he's speaking, he said, "It's okay." He said, "Not okay with you? That's okay." And he walked away. Yes. Mm.
All right. Take over mic. I don't want to talk on the mic, but I will.
All right.
Hey, Andre.
Hey, good to see you, man.
Yeah, man, it's good to see you again.
Yeah.
Yeah, we started coming to the Kadampa Center like around the same time.
Yeah.
I'm curious about slightly taking this in a little bit of a different direction.
Okay.
I didn't mean to like make a confession today, but I don't know any way other to ask this without giving you context. So years back, I did harm, and as a result, it sort of fucked up my life. Um, and it follows me around. And I can't get away from it. And it's really only the Buddhist teachings that I'm alive today. Because every time I think I get a little further, there's somebody who comes in or reminds me.
Yeah.
And I've read like Healing Anger, which was like based on a speech that the Dalai Lama gave. Because most of his books, I think, are like just speeches that he gave. And I'm interested to find out, especially like with your work with prisoners, do you run across a different type of anger, which I know that I have, because I've done transformative justice. And God bless America. And I've actually met with the person who accused me, and we're actually working on being friends now. So that's great.
Yeah.
It was only through, interestingly enough, you were earlier saying that you have issues like in the past, I guess, with Black people. It was only through Black
No,
people.
it was white people.
Oh, I thought you said Black people.
I like Black people.
But like, no, it's only through Black people that I was able to come out of
Sure.
this nightmarish hell, because Black people generally understand transformative justice in a way that a lot of white people just can't. And I'm interested to find out, like, in your working with prisoners, do you run across a different type of anger, which is not the anger of the victim, which is understandable? I'm not downplaying that at all. Please understand me. But an anger at society, at people, at all these things. Because it's like I said, it doesn't matter how far I go forward. It doesn't matter how much transformative justice work I do. It doesn't matter what I do.
Yeah, I get it. I get it. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I definitely do. Right. Yeah, I definitely get that people are angry at society as a large. I write in my book that oftentimes people feel like they were dealt a bad hand, right? And they feel like they had no other choice but to play that hand, but that's not true. And I want them to know that that's not true. You may have felt that at that time, but it's not true. You could have played the game differently, right?
Yeah, and I think like
Yeah.
it's one of the reasons why a lot of criminals end up becoming worse criminals. You might have started off stealing a candy bar from a store, but now you're a criminal.
Yeah.
Nobody gives a blankety blank that it was a
Yeah.
candy bar you stole from a store. All they care about is you are a criminal.
Yeah.
And so the facts of the details of what happened never gets talked about.
Yeah.
All that gets talked about is you are a criminal. So then once you become a criminal,
Yeah.
you're a fucking criminal. So why not be a worse criminal? Because you're not going to get a fair shake.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to treat you fairly.
And this is the stuff that I'm trying to get them to see differently, right? Yeah, they're going to be labeled a criminal. Once they're in, they're convicts. When they get out, they're ex-convicts in certain people's eyes, right? But what I see and what I want them to see is they are not that they're actually they actually have Buddha nature. They're actually good people. I want them to see that, and that's the hardest part, right? We blame ourselves, right? And so forth. But not only do we blame ourselves, but we blame others, society. We blame other people. We blame this and blame that. Got to get out of that game, period. No, recognize I did this. This guy snitched on you. Okay, yeah. Don't get angry at him. If you hadn't done anything, there would have been nothing to snitch on, right? You got to recognize that you did this. You got to own it. You just got to own it. I own my stuff. I know the pain and suffering I caused my family and others. I own it. Not so long ago, just a couple of years ago, my daughter dealing with it, she decided, I can't deal with you, Dad. Right? I lost my son. Now I lost my daughter. Really, really hurt me, broke my heart. She said, Dad, I just need space. And so I gave her that space. I was worried if I die now, it's going to be some regret because, we didn't get a chance and so forth. But I gave her that space, gave her the time to work on it. Right. But I recognized what I did. I didn't make excuses. I recognized what I did. I hurt her. I recognized that there's no excuse for that. And so then I just worked on it. I'm able to forgive myself and have compassion for myself. Again, doesn't mean that that I didn't do it. No, I did it. But I have compassion for myself and forgiveness for myself. That's then. This is now. This is who I am now. This is who I'm trying to be now. I tell people about my anger now, and they can't even believe that I even had that kind of anger. It doesn't fit, right? Right. But yeah. So yeah, don't blame anyone else. Look at yourself and don't blame yourself in a negative way. Just recognize, no, I created the causes and conditions for this. That's just a fact. It's not a judgment or anything like that. I created the causes and conditions for what happened, right? Our karma, our actions produce who we are. We are actually creating ourselves. You want to know who God, the creator, is? Hello. It's us. We are creating ourselves by our actions, by our karma. Keep in mind, karma is action. We typically uh, mix it up. We think that we look at the results and call that karma. That's not karma. That's just the results of our action. Karma itself is action. Every act produces a result. Every thought produces an action. This is why we meditate, so we can look at our minds and really see what's going on there. And then we can begin to work on doing the gardening process, right? Weeding out this stuff, this stuff that doesn't benefit us, right? We call those negative thoughts. We want to get rid of those, right? Why are they negative? Because they don't benefit us. The positive ones, the things that benefit us, help us to be able to realize our goal of being happy and not suffering, then those are the ones we want to nurture. This is the work that we have to do. This is it. This is our work, that we have to do. And so we do it. And we do it with a good heart, knowing that I'm going to become a better person. My wife and I, we're closer than we've ever been because I worked on myself. I didn't try to work on her. I worked on myself. I didn't stop blaming her and blaming them and right. I'm surrounded by so many people who genuinely care about me. I know they do. I know you guys care about me, right? When I'm not here, I miss you guys, and so forth. Why is this happening? Because I'm creating the causes and conditions for that to happen. Right? So that's the work we have to do. That's it. That's it. That's the work we have to do. And so we do it. We just do it. We don't want to be who we are now. We don't want to be who we were then, right? The only way to change that is by working on right now, this present moment, because that's all we got is the present moment. The past is the past, future is fantasy. It hasn't happened yet. All we have is this present moment. And my thing is that, okay, maybe let's say there's no enlightenment. Maybe when I die, I go into the ground and that's it. Let's say, but by me doing this work in the present moment, Today, I'm a better person. That means something to me. Today, I'm kind. Today, I'm compassionate. Today, I love. That means something to me. And that means something to the people that are around me. Right? It means something. So that's our work. We work on ourselves. Don't worry about becoming enlightened and stuff like that. I feel like that's going to happen. I don't have to worry about that. Become a better human being, right? As the Dalai Lama says, become a better human being, work on that. If we can do that, yeah. And then when tragedies befall us, like losing your son or what have you, you know, whatever it may be, then we're able to deal with that. We're able to navigate in that world. We're able to still find happiness and joy, right? Yeah. 11:56.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you so much, Andre,
Oh,
for
you're quite-
being here today, and
Yeah.
congratulations on your book
Thank you.
and for sharing your story with
Mhm.
us and
Yeah.
answering some questions.
Okay.
Very, very meaningful. So we'll go ahead and do prayers. Are there any announcements that we need to make? Trina, you can come on up.
And can I say this? Can I say this also? I have I brought a few books with me. I'm not going to sell them. If you would like one, I'll give you a book. Okay. This has never been a money enterprise for me or anything like that. It's like I really genuinely want to help people. So if you would like a book, I didn't bring a lot of them, but I have a few. Mhm.
Hello.
Just wanted to let you know that we have, the Dharma shop has fresh items that, Coco had put up in the Dharma shop. So if you're interested in anything that's new, you're welcome to buy some things. Thank you.
Mm.
Thanks. And a quick announcement from me. So after today, Kadampa Center will be closed until December 31st, which is New Year's Eve. And we do our annual Dorji Kadro, which is a purification fire puja. So if you haven't ever been, and if you've been every year for who knows how long, come back. So we'll start in the Gampa. Geshe Gelik will lead us through the actual prayers of Dorji, the Dorji Kadro Puja. And then we'll go outside. So keep that in mind when you come. Dress accordingly, maybe in layers, warm shoes or socks. And we will be around fires, but you know, it might be cold out there. And so that's going to be on December 31st from 7 p.m. until 9. The prayers and practices won't take that long, but after we wrap that up, then we'll have some time to enjoy some refreshments and, you know, socialize and be together. And then you can head out whenever you want, especially if you have other plans for New Year's Eve. So Kadampa Center will be closed until then. However, the weekday morning meditation that takes place online will still be going on Monday through Friday. So feel free to join that if that's your thing. And I think that's all. We'll resume our more regular schedule starting Sunday, January 4th. So,
Mm.
anything else?
That's my wife's birthday, January 4th. Yeah.
Yes. No, it's not a potluck on Dorji Kadra. Their Kadampa Center is going to be providing the, I should just say, Elise and Heather.
Mhm.
All right. Anything else? No. Okay. So we'll go ahead and do our wrap up with our prayers. Let me share my screen. The Dorji Kadra, just for those of us, or those of you who are online, it is only in person, just because of the nature of it. Okay, so turn to the blue tab in the Gold Prayer Book. It's page 246. We'll do the dedication verses. from Master Shanti Davis. I'm not even going to try to say the name of his book. May all beings everywhere, plagued by sufferings of body and mind, obtain an ocean of happiness and joy by virtue of our merits. May no living creature suffer, commit evil, or ever fall ill. May no one be afraid or belittled with a mind weighed down by depression. May the blind see forms and the deaf hear sounds. May those whose bodies are worn with toil be restored on finding repose. May the naked find clothing, the hungry find food. May the thirsty find water and delicious drinks. May the poor find wealth, those weak with sorrow find joy. May the forlorn find hope, constant happiness, and prosperity. May there be timely rains and bountiful harvests. May all medicines be effective and wholesome prayers bear fruit. May all who are sick and ill quickly be freed from their ailments. Whatever diseases there are in the world, may these never occur again. May the frightened cease to be afraid, and those bound be freed. May the powerless find power, and may people think of benefiting each other. For as long as space remains, for as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. And then we'll do the long life prayers first for His Holiness. It's page 244. In the land encircled by snow mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good. All powerful Chenrezig Tenzin Gyatso, please remain until samsara ends. And then page 245 for Geshe-la's teacher, Khensa Rinpoche. The one who mastered his speech at a very young age, the one with great patience who received the name Avatari, the one with great precision who spread the teachings of Lama Tsongkhapa on bliss and void, Lama, ornament of the yellow hat tradition, please remain until samsara ends. And then the swift return prayer for Lama Zopa Rinpoche, which is found on the inside back cover. Peerless teacher and assembly of the children of the victorious ones, Shravakas and Prakteka Buddhas, victorious Losang, father and sons, along with the lineage masters, all the objects of refuge of the infinite lands, please bestow the virtue and goodness of accomplishing this prayer here and now. Holding and spreading the Muni's precious and complete teachings through explanation and practice, you wore the armor of patience that is never discouraged. Incomparable venerable Guru, to you I make request. While striving single-pointedly for the sake of the victorious one's teachings, the sole gateway through which all benefit and happiness emerge, and from other living beings, you suddenly departed to peace. What a great loss! Nevertheless, through the undeceiving truth of the blessings of the ocean of the three pools and the great waves of bodhicitta of the children of the victorious ones, may the smile of a reincarnation swiftly beam in glory for fortunate disciples. And then we'll do the long life prayers for Geshe Gelik and Geshe Sangpo, which are found on the inside front cover of the Gold Prayer Book. First, we'll do the long life prayer for Geshe Gelik. A supreme guide, you lead us on the many paths of virtue. A shining sun, you give us the best of excellent explanations. Supreme virtuous friend, you're a constant Dharma companion. Lama who has renounced fame, may you ever remain. And then for Geshe Sangpo, you who have steadfast imprints of virtuous qualities and keep the instructions of the glorious Guru in your heart. You who pass day and night with noble activities, great virtuous friend, may you have a very long life. And then we'll finish off with 7 Tara mantras, bottom of page 37, for the benefit of all living beings. Om Tare Tu, so. Om Tare Tu, Re So. Ha. Om Tare Tu, Re So. 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 Okay, thanks again, everyone, for being here, whether you're in person or online. Thanks, Andre, again for being here and sharing your story. And hopefully I'll see some of you in person for Dorji Cadro. And then we'll reconvene January 4th for a new year and back to our regular schedule. All right, thanks, everyone.
Good. All right.
Great lesson. Thank you, Andre.
Oh, quite welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you, Andre.
Thank you. Who was that? Thank you very much for being on Zoom.
Was Don, Rainey, Gio.
Thank you all very much.
For your sharing.
People on YouTube had written in, thank you.
Oh, good.
Thanks so much.
Yes. Oh, thanks for asking me to do this. I appreciate it. Yeah.